"We can't afford to have you for Christmas this year." That was the text. Just those 10 little words sitting there on the screen of my phone, glowing like something radioactive. I must have read them 100 times, sitting there at my kitchen table with my cup of coffee growing cold. Each time, the words just got sharper, colder. It was from my son Michael, my only child. The boy I raised on my own after his father passed, the boy I worked 2 jobs for, the boy whose face was the sun in my sky. And just like that, with a little buzz and a flash of light, the sun had gone out. They couldn't afford me. But it wasn't about money, was it? No, this was a different kind of currency. And in that moment, I knew I was bankrupt in their eyes. But that cruel little message, the one that was meant to put me in my place, to lock me away in my quiet little house for the holidays, well, it turned out to be a key. It was the key that unlocked a cage I didn't even know I was in. They thought they were cutting me out. But honey, all they did was set me free. They sent me a text, and I sent them a postcard from the other side of the world. And it changed everything. My life, for the longest time, was a map with one single destination on it. Michael. After my Robert passed on, God rest his soul, it was just me and my boy. Against the world. And I promised myself, and I promised Robert in my prayers every night, that our son would want for nothing. That meant I wanted for everything. It meant nights spent on my knees scrubbing floors at the hospital, the smell of antiseptic so deep in my nose I could taste it in my sleep. It meant weekends spent waitressing, smiling till my cheeks ached, my feet throbbing a rhythm of exhaustion against the linoleum. I remember one year, Michael needed braces. The cost was like a mountain I couldn't see the top of. I took on a 3rd job, just for a few months, delivering newspapers in the dark, cold hours before the sun even thought about rising. I'd come home, my fingers numb, and see his school picture on the mantelpiece, and it was all the warmth I needed. Every dollar I made was a brick in the foundation of his future. I didn't buy new dresses. I bought his textbooks. I didn't take vacations. I paid for his spot on the basketball team. And I did it with a joyful heart, truly. Watching him walk across that stage to get his high school diploma, and then again for his college degree. That was my prize. That was my trip to Paris. When he met Jessica, I was so happy for him. She was polished, ambitious. She came from a family with money, and I thought, good. He'll have the stability I always had to fight for. I welcomed her in, taught her my recipe for sweet potato pie, the one Robert always said could bring about world peace. I gave her the pearl earrings my own mother had given me on my wedding day. I wanted her to feel like a daughter. But there was always a little distance in her eyes. A kind of polite assessment. When she looked at my little house, the one Robert and I had bought, the one filled with love and memories, I felt like she was seeing chipped paint and worn furniture. When I'd give the grandkids, my sweet little Maya and Noah, a hand-knitted sweater for their birthdays, she'd smile a little too brightly and say, "How quaint, May." And the gifts would disappear into a closet, never to be seen again. Michael. He tried to bridge the gap. In the beginning, he'd still call me, just to talk, like he used to. He'd tell me about his work, about the funny thing Maya said. But slowly, the calls got shorter. Jessica was always in the background, needing him for something. The Sunday dinners I used to host became monthly, then, whenever they could fit me in. I was becoming a quaint old piece of furniture myself, one they weren't quite sure what to do with. Through all of this, my church was my rock. The community there, they were my family when my own was drifting away. I've always believed that what you put out into the world comes back to you, so I tried to put out kindness. I'd cook for the sick, drive the elderly to their appointments, listen to anyone who needed an ear. And there was this one young woman, Lena. She was a quiet thing, with eyes that held a universe of dreams and a whole lot of hurt. She'd lost her parents young, grew up in the system. She had this fire in her belly, though. She had a dream of starting her own travel agency, a little one, for people who didn't have a lot of money but wanted to see a little bit of the world. She had the brains, she had the plan, but she had not one red cent to her name and no family to co-sign a loan. I remember finding her crying in the church garden one afternoon. She'd just been turned down by the last bank on her list. She was about to give it all up, go get some dead-end job just to survive. And something in me just broke. I saw the girl I used to be, the one with dreams bigger than her wallet. I saw a spirit about to be snuffed out. So I went home, and I looked at the small retirement account I had, the little bit I'd managed to put away after Michael's college was all paid for. It wasn't much, but to her, it could be everything. I went to the bank the next day, took out a personal loan against it. The banker looked at me over his glasses like I was crazy. But I'd never felt more sane. I met Lena for coffee and slid an envelope across the table. She opened it, and her eyes filled with tears. She started talking about payment plans, about interest, but I put my hand over hers. I told her, "This is not a loan, baby girl. This is a blessing. It's an investment in the goodness I see in you. You just go on and build something beautiful. Don't you worry about me. You just go bless the world with your gifts." She hugged me so tight I could feel the gratitude coming off her in waves. And then, life went on. I saw her a few times at church. She was working so hard, always smiling. Then she moved her office to a bigger space downtown, and we lost touch. I'd think of her now and then, and just pray she was doing all right. I never expected to hear from her again. It was a seed I'd planted, and I was content just knowing I'd given it a chance to grow, whether I ever saw the flower or not. I had my own garden to tend to, or so I thought. I just didn't realize how cold the frost was about to get. The text message arrived on a Tuesday morning. I was in the middle of planning my Christmas baking, making a list of ingredients for the cookies and pies I was going to bring over to Michael's house. I was thinking about what to get the grandkids. Maya wanted a telescope to look at the stars, and Noah was obsessed with a giant Lego set. I'd been saving all year, putting cash away in an old shoebox in my closet. Every extra shift, every time I decided to eat at home instead of out, a little more went into the box. It was nearly $2,000. More than enough for the telescope and the Legos, and something nice for Michael and Jessica too. My phone buzzed on the counter, and I picked it up, smiling, expecting it to be Michael calling to talk about Christmas Day plans. And then I saw it. "We can't afford to have you for Christmas this year." My breath just left my body. It felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My first thought was, this is a mistake. A joke. He's teasing me. My hands were trembling so bad I could barely press the screen. I called him. It rang, and rang, and then went to voicemail. My heart was pounding in my ears. I tried again. This time, someone picked up. But it wasn't Michael's voice. "Hi, May," Jessica said. Her voice was like honey laced with something bitter. So sweet it made your teeth ache. "Jessica? What's going on?" "I got this text from Michael." "Oh, that," she sighed, a long dramatic sound. "He was just so upset he couldn't bring himself to call. He asked me to handle it." Handle it? Like I was a problem to be managed. A leaky faucet. A bill to be paid. "Handle what?" I asked, my voice small. "I don't understand. Can't afford me? Are you all in some kind of trouble?" "I have some money saved, I can help," she cut me off with a little laugh. It wasn't a kind laugh. "Oh, May. No. It's not like that. It's just, well, we've decided to do something different this year. We're taking the kids to Aspen. Skiing." Aspen. The word hung in the air between us. A place I'd only ever seen in magazines. A world away from my little house and my shoebox of savings. "It's just," she continued, her voice dropping into a confidential conspiratorial tone, as if she were letting me in on a secret. "We want to start our own traditions with the kids, you know. A real family Christmas, just the four of us. Creating our own memories." The implication was clear. I wasn't part of our own. I was part of the old traditions, the ones she was so eager to leave behind. I was silent, trying to process the cruelty of it, trying to find the right words. But she wasn't finished. She was just getting warmed up. And besides, she said, her voice turning sharp, like a shard of glass, the kids are getting to an age where they want certain things. It's hard to explain to them why Santa brings them an Apple Watch but Grandma brings them a knitted scarf. It just creates confusion. There it was. The disdain she'd always hidden behind a polite smile, now laid bare. My gifts, the ones I poured my love and my time into, were an embarrassment to her. They were a reminder of a simpler life she was desperate to scrub away, like a stain on her perfect expensive carpet. I finally found my voice. Jessica. Why couldn't Michael tell me this himself? Another sigh, this one full of impatience. May. You get so emotional about things. He didn't want the drama. We have so much to plan, it's a very stressful time. Honestly, and here, her voice became cold and final. It's a relief to not have to worry about accommodating you this year. It's for the best. You understand. It wasn't a question, it was a dismissal. A verdict. I was being accommodated. I was a burden. A relief to be rid of. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. All I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. Well, I have to go, she said brightly, her work done. The travel agent is on the other line. You have a good Christmas, May. And then she hung up. The click of the phone ending the call was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. It echoed in the sudden crushing silence of my kitchen. I stood there, phone in my hand, staring at the wall. The whole world had just tilted on its axis. The family I had spent my entire life building, the family that was my reason for being, had just taken a pair of scissors and neatly, coldly snipped me out of the picture. I was alone. Utterly and completely alone. And Christmas was coming. The next few days were a fog. I didn't eat. I barely slept. I'd just sit in my armchair, the one Robert used to love, and stare out the window as the world went on without me. I saw neighbors putting up their Christmas lights, families carrying home Christmas trees, their laughter echoing down the street. Every happy sound felt like a personal insult. My house, usually filled with the smell of baking and the sound of carols on the radio this time of year, was silent and stale. It felt like a tomb. The grief was a physical thing. It was a heavy blanket that smothered me, a weight on my chest that made it hard to draw a full breath. I was at the bottom of a deep, dark well, and I didn't have the strength to even look up, let alone climb out. One afternoon, I went up to my closet to pull out a warmer sweater. My hand brushed against the old shoebox on the shelf. I took it down and sat on the edge of my bed. I opened it. Inside were the neat stacks of cash. 20s, 50s, even a few hundreds. Nearly $2,000 of scraped-together love. It was Maya's telescope. It was Noah's Legos. It was a new watch for Michael and that expensive perfume Jessica liked. Looking at it now, it just felt like a pile of paper. Worthless. A monument to a love that was no longer wanted. I just closed the box and shoved it back into the darkness of the closet. I felt a desperate need to connect with a time when I felt loved, a time before my world had shrunk to the size of this lonely house. I started going through an old chest in the corner of my bedroom, looking for photo albums, for pictures of Michael when he was little, anything to remind me of the good years. My fingers sifted through old report cards, birthday cards, little crayon drawings. And that's when a single envelope slipped out from between the pages of a photo album and fluttered to the floor. It was a Christmas card. On the front was a simple drawing of a dove. I didn't recognize it at first. I opened it. The handwriting inside was neat and hopeful. Dear Auntie May, it read. Merry Christmas. Thinking of you and so grateful for you always. This year, my dream finally has its own front door. It's not much, but it's a start. All my love, Lena. Tucked inside was a photograph. It was of Lena, beaming, standing in front of a small, clean office. A sign on the window said Lena's Travels. The card was dated 5 years ago. I held the card in my hands, and a flicker of warmth went through me. It was a memory of a time when my kindness meant something, when it wasn't an embarrassment. It was a memory of a seed I had planted. On a whim, driven by nothing more than a need to feel a connection to something good, I went to my computer. My fingers felt clumsy on the keyboard. I typed Lena's travels and the name of our city into the search bar. I expected to see that little office, maybe. Or maybe nothing at all. What I did not expect was what filled the screen. The first result wasn't Lena's travels. It was the Lena Group. Bespoke global journeys. Then there were links to articles in Forbes and Travel Leisure. From foster care to first class. The unstoppable vision of Lena Wright. I clicked on a link, and there she was. It was Lena, but not the shy, quiet girl I remembered. This was a woman. Confident, poised, beautiful, standing on the balcony of some exotic hotel, the ocean sparkling behind her. My jaw was on the floor. I spent the next hour reading. She hadn't just built a business, she had built an empire. A high-end luxury travel company that catered to the rich and famous. She specialized in creating once-in-a-lifetime experiences. The article mentioned her philanthropic work, helping other young women from the foster care system start their own businesses. My little seed hadn't just grown a flower. It had grown an entire forest. I found the main website for the Lena Group. It was sleek and beautiful, with pictures of places I couldn't even dream of. There was a contact us page with a general email address. I stared at it for a long time. What was I even doing? She was a big, important CEO now. She wouldn't remember me. But that little flicker of warmth I'd felt persisted. I had to. I opened up my email, and I wrote the simplest thing I could think of. Dear Lena, I typed. I don't know if you'll remember me, my name is May. We knew each other from church many years ago. I just came across an article about your success online, and I had to write and tell you how incredibly proud I am of you. I always knew you had a special light in you. Wishing you all the best. Sincerely, May. I didn't ask for anything. I didn't mention my own situation. I just wanted to send a little bit of that pride and love out into the universe. I hit send, closed the computer, and figured that was that. Less than an hour later, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? I said. Auntie May. A voice said. A voice I knew, but now it was filled with a power and a joy that was brand new. Auntie May. Is that really you? Tears sprang to my eyes. Lena? Child, is that you? Oh my God, it's you. She was crying and laughing at the same time. I can't believe it. I've been looking for you for years. I hired a private investigator. I called every church in the city with your name, but you weren't in any of the records anymore. I thought I'd never find you to thank you. Honey, there's nothing to thank me for, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Nothing to thank you for, she said, her voice fierce. Auntie, you didn't just give me money. Do you know how many people had money? You gave me belief. When I was sitting in that garden, I wasn't just out of cash, I was out of hope. You gave me hope. That was the real startup capital. Everything I have, everything I've built, it all grew from the seed you planted that day. We talked for an hour. I didn't tell her about Michael and Jessica. I didn't want to taint this beautiful moment with my ugly little sadness. But Lena was sharp. She heard something in my voice. Auntie, what are you doing for Christmas? She asked gently. The question hung in the air. Oh, nothing much, honey. Just a quiet one at home this year. No, she said, her voice firm, leaving no room for argument. No, that will not do. You gave me my dream. Now you have to let me give you one. Pack a bag. A warm one. You're spending Christmas in Italy. I laughed. Lena, that's sweet, but I can't possibly. I'm not asking, Auntie May. I'm telling. I'm sending a car for you in 2 days. You're flying first class to Naples. You'll have a driver. You're staying for 2 weeks in a villa I keep on the Amalfi Coast. Everything is taken care of. Everything. She paused. That shoebox of money you gave me changed my life. Now, you go find that shoebox you've been saving for everyone else, and you use it as your walking around money. You go buy yourself something beautiful. Please, let me do this for you. I was sobbing now, but for the first time in a long time they were tears of joy. It was too much. It was overwhelming. It was grace. It was the harvest from a seed I had planted and forgotten, coming back to me 1,000-fold, right when my own world had turned to barren ground. 2 days later, a sleek black car pulled up in front of my little house. The driver, a kind man in a crisp suit, took my suitcase. As I locked the front door, I felt like I was locking away the old me. The sad, lonely woman who was waiting for an invitation to her own life. The woman who got on that plane was someone new. I had never been on a plane before, let alone in first class. They brought me champagne. I, May, who thought a splurge was buying the brand name coffee, was drinking champagne as I flew through the clouds. Italy. Lord, there are no words. It was like walking into a painting. The air smelled of lemons and the sea. The villa Lena had for me was perched on a cliff overlooking the bluest water I had ever seen. Every morning, I'd wake up, make a cup of coffee, and sit on my balcony, just watching the sun rise over the water. I ate pasta that melted in my mouth, I drank wine that tasted like sunshine, I walked through ancient streets and listened to the sound of church bells. I met people who were warm and kind, who would smile and talk to me even though we didn't share a language. For the first time in years, I wasn't a mother. I wasn't a mother-in-law. I wasn't a grandmother. I was just May. I felt a lightness in my soul I hadn't felt since Robert was alive. The heavy blanket of grief was gone, replaced by the warm Italian sun on my skin. I bought myself a beautiful silk scarf, the color of the sea, with the money from my shoebox. I didn't think about what Maya or Noah would have wanted. I thought about what I wanted. It was a revelation. On Christmas Eve, I was sitting at a little cafe in the town square, drinking a cappuccino. The town was lit up with twinkling lights, and a choir was singing carols in the piazza. It was the most magical Christmas I had ever known. And I thought about Michael, and Jessica, and the kids. I hoped they were having a good time in Aspen. I truly did. There was no bitterness in my heart. Only a kind of peaceful, sad wisdom. They had given me a gift they never intended to. They had given me back to myself. I found a little shop that sold postcards. I picked one out. It was a picture of the view from my balcony, the cliffs tumbling down to the sparkling sea. I turned it over, and I wrote the simplest, truest thing I could. Having a wonderful time, I wrote. Hope you're well. Love, Mom. I dropped it in a mailbox and walked back to my villa under the stars, feeling completely, perfectly content. I came home in the new year a different woman. I walked taller. I smiled more. The silence in my house no longer felt lonely. It felt peaceful. I filled it with music. I started painting again, a hobby I'd given up decades ago. I was rediscovering the woman I was before I became everything to everyone else. About 3 weeks after I got back, my doorbell rang. I opened it. And there they were. Michael and Jessica. They looked terrible. Stressed. Tired. Their expensive winter coats couldn't hide the strain on their faces. Mom, Michael said, not quite meeting my eyes. Can we come in? I stepped aside and let them in. They sat on my couch, the one Jessica always subtly criticized. She looked around my living room, and for the first time, I don't think she was seeing chipped paint. I think she was seeing a warmth and a peace that was completely absent from her own life. They made small talk for a few minutes, but the tension was thick. Finally, Jessica got to the point. Their trip to Aspen, it turned out, was a disaster. It was far more expensive than they'd planned. They'd put it all on credit cards. The kids had been bored and grumpy. Michael and Jessica had fought the whole time. It was a picture-perfect vacation for social media and a miserable reality behind the scenes. Now, the bills were coming due, and they were in over their heads. They were there to ask me for money. My shoebox money, I presumed. So Jessica said, trying to sound casual, a sneer playing on her lips. "We got your postcard." "Italy? How on earth could you afford a trip like that?" I smiled. A real, genuine smile. It wasn't triumphant. It was serene. It was a Christmas gift, I said calmly, taking a sip of my tea. From a very dear friend. Her name is Lena. The name meant nothing to them. Michael just looked confused. Jessica's eyes narrowed. "Lena?" she asked. I looked at her gently. "Yes. Lena Wright. The young woman from church, all those years ago. The one who started that little travel agency. You remember, don't you?" I saw a flicker of recognition in Jessica's eyes. A memory of a quiet, poor girl she would have dismissed without a second thought. Then, I saw the gears turning in her head as she tried to connect that girl to a luxury trip to Italy. I decided to help her. "Her company has done very well," I said, my voice soft and even. "She's expanding, actually. She's looking for a new regional director for the East Coast operations. It's a 6-figure job, full benefits, company car. She asked me if Michael might be interested, since he has so much experience in management." Michael's head snapped up. His eyes were wide. He opened his mouth to speak, but I continued, my gaze still on Jessica. I told her thank you, but that I was sure Michael was very happy with his current situation. That you two had your own plans. The room was dead silent. I could see the blood drain from Jessica's face. But I wasn't finished. There was one last receipt to deliver. It's funny, I mused, as if the thought had just occurred to me. Lena's company just acquired a portfolio of luxury properties in that new gated community over in Oak Creek. The one you love so much, Jessica. The one with the big houses and the good schools. They're offering them to their senior executives at a steep discount. A welcome bonus, I think she called it. I took another slow sip of my tea and then looked directly at her. Her face was a mask of disbelief and dawning horror. She was finally understanding. She was seeing the ghost of a life she could have had. A life of real wealth, not the credit card-fueled illusion of it. A life that was offered through a door she had personally slammed shut, locked, and bolted. Such a shame, I said, my voice barely a whisper. The opportunities that pass us by when we lose touch with people. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. The truth was sitting in the air between us, heavier than any angry words could ever be. They saw what their cruelty, their snobbery, their petty need to put me in my place had cost them. It wasn't just a relationship with me. It was a future. They left soon after that. They didn't get any money. They just left with the quiet, devastating knowledge of what they had thrown away. And as I closed the door behind them, I felt nothing but peace. My happiness was no longer tied to their approval. My worth was not determined by their invitation. And now, I want to talk to you. Yes, you. The one who is listening to my story. I want to talk to all the women out there who have been pouring from their own cup until it's bone dry. The ones who save for everyone else's dreams and put their own on a shelf to gather dust. The ones who make themselves smaller to make others feel big. I see you. I was you. Please. Hear me when I say this. Your worth is not negotiable. Your presence is a gift, not a burden to be afforded. Don't you ever let anyone make you feel like you have to be accommodated in your own life. What is that one thing you've been saving for? That trip you've been dreaming of? That class you've wanted to take? That beautiful thing you want to buy, just for you? Don't wait for one day. Don't wait for permission. And please, don't wait for someone to uninvite you from their life to finally start living your own. Sometimes, the greatest act of love you can perform is to love yourself first. Go fill your own cup. Fill it until it overflows. Because you, my dear, are worth more than all the treasures in this world. You are more than enough. Go on now. And you go bless the world with your gifts.